Forget everything you thought you knew. Because the 11th of January holds a sinister secret whispered among locals. Yet the 24th of January, the very last weekend prior to Nancy Guthrie vanishing, carries equal, terrifying weight. Back in 1999, a groundbreaking study by Harvard researchers completely reshaped our comprehension of cognition. Participants observed subjects tossing a ball. These test subjects had one simple task: tally up every single throw made by the team wearing light apparel. While the majority tallied correctly, roughly 50% of those viewers remained entirely oblivious to a primate mascot strolling right across the screen, pausing to stare at the lens before exiting. This was no fleeting shadow or optical illusion. An entire ape costume dominated the view for 9 whole seconds. Daniel Simons, alongside Christopher Chabris, coined a brilliant term for this phenomenon: inattentional blindness. Concentrating deeply on a specific objective does not merely diminish your surrounding awareness, it completely obliterates everything else. Peripheral details literally disappear, not due to a lack of intelligence or effort, but simply since our intellect operates differently than a recording device. Rather, it functions like a film director, selecting vital information while mercilessly trimming away extraneous background noise. Following that primary revelation, those two scientists pushed their investigations even deeper. Astoundingly, preparing participants to look for the ape provided zero advantage. Anticipating one anomaly totally failed to help them spot different anomalies during subsequent trials. Just because you catch the first trick certainly guarantees nothing about catching the second. A single warning fails to trigger universal vigilance across your senses. Instead, your focus narrows onto that precise threat while discarding all unclassified data. Being on high alert fundamentally differs from actually seeing what surrounds you. Total, unwavering concentration might still leave you utterly blind to an object resting right beneath your very nose. Unlabeled evidence easily slips by unnoticed. Which brings us to the 54 straight days we spent monitoring Nancy Guthrie's block. Our team ruthlessly patrolled her property recording footage, knocking on doors, and categorizing every microscopic element imaginable, yet tucked away along that pavement, perhaps obscured by electrical cabinets, or hidden within digital archives and scribbled posters. Crucial details hid in broad daylight, remaining unappreciated until long after the fact. Rather than just criticizing law enforcement oversights, this investigation delves into much more complex psychological territory. We are exploring precisely how the brain handles raw data that entirely lacks a predefined mental file folder. Here lies the terrifying truth of how 100 individuals could stare directly at a vital breakthrough without genuinely observing anything at all. Arriving at any incident location immediately forces police officers into that hyper-focused, ball-tallying mindset. Authorities actively hunt for biological trace material, defensive wounds, and bystander accounts that fit their preconceived narrative of the offense. Anything breaking that specific pattern, like a strange morning vehicle or a slightly misaligned power meter down the block. Even some random cardboard note resting beside an unknown victim's shrine demands enormous mental gymnastics to even process as relevant, forcing the observer to abruptly break their routine and shift gears. Shifting perspectives never occurs spontaneously. It demands breathing room, separation, and entirely fresh inquiries. Some passerby navigating those sidewalks might have already laid eyes upon the key to unlocking Nancy Guthrie's mystery. The real issue remains: did their brain actually process what their vision captured? Prior to discussing overlooked clues, analyzing the local terrain is absolutely crucial. Since Via Entrada's layout serves as a primary character here, location means everything. As journalist John Depro discovered while tracking the situation firsthand across Tucson since day one, pressing him for details regarding Via Entrada, which twists directly past the victim's residential area. He likened the unlit avenue to a pitch-black labyrinth where reading navigation markers becomes practically impossible. Such treacherous conditions imply far more than just getting lost. Traversing an unpredictable nighttime route effectively demands prior familiarity. Winging it blindly down Via Entrada at 2 o'clock past midnight guarantees a swift disaster. First-timers cannot trust their gut feeling, as the confusing layout heavily favors locals while completely overwhelming outsiders. Veterans of that asphalt have memorized every curve and established their own visual guides, instinctively mastering those tricky intersections without requiring printed directions. However, imagine this exact environment under the bright sun. It transforms into a perfectly mundane Catalina foothills suburb in Tucson, so peacefully generic that commuters easily zone out while passing by. That profound normalcy creates an incredibly dangerous illusion. The perpetrator banked heavily on this false sense of security, perfectly weaponizing the core principles behind perceptual ignorance. Humans miss crucial details, not because someone cleverly concealed the evidence. People walk right past monsters every day, completely blind to the danger hidden in plain sight. Nobody dressed up that famous primate in a clever costume. The creature simply vanished from sight since the test subjects had their minds locked onto counting passes, leaving zero mental bandwidth for anything weird. Our minds just dump useless data into the trash and keep rolling. Spotting an automobile parked along Via Entrada at 10 in the morning on a Saturday feels absolutely nothing like spotting a wild ape crashing a sports match. You are just looking at a typical automobile on a quiet suburban avenue. It blends right in. Your subconscious registers the scene, stamps it as utterly mundane, and quickly discards the memory. Calling this careless observation misses the point entirely. Mother Nature literally hardwired our cognitive systems to function exactly this way. But here lies the truly chilling thought that detectives have secretly been agonizing over for several weeks. What if the perpetrator fully grasped this psychological blind spot? What if a predator specifically utilized broad daylight on a lazy weekend morning along a sleepy suburban lane, counting on our natural cognitive filters working flawlessly to erase them roughly 2 weeks following the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie? Authorities blasted an urgent digital plea across the Ring neighborhood network to homeowners living throughout the Catalina foothills, while regional broadcasting outlets like K50A alongside Cole D quickly backed up that official appeal. Federal agents joining forces with Pima County law enforcement urgently pleaded with locals to comb through their security archives for a pair of very distinct timeframes. Their initial target landed on January 11th, exactly 20 days prior to the kidnapping. The exact time frame they needed spanned from 9 at night until midnight. That January 11th target happens to align with whispers I previously uncovered from local gossips, though they were equally desperate for clips from January 24th, the exact weekend right before Nancy Guthrie literally vanished into thin air. Law enforcement has completely refused to tell the public why that specific day holds any weight. Detectives freely admit it caught their attention. Beyond that single admission, their lips remain totally sealed. Such heavy quiet coming from an investigative crew notorious for calculating every single press release truly demands our serious attention. Whenever the authorities start begging for surveillance clips while keeping their motives shrouded in mystery, it usually means they are trying to keep the suspect totally unaware that a hunt is actively underway. Then came the next critical milestone on January 31st, a mere 24 hours before someone snatched Nancy. They requested a morning gap from 9:30 until 11. Tucked deep inside that public bulletin, looking almost like an afterthought, they casually mentioned an incredibly shady automobile seen lurking around Via Entrada near 10 in the morning. Authorities withheld absolutely every physical detail about the ride, refusing to drop hints about the brand, paint job, or even which way it was heading. By aggressively demanding video for a highly specific 90-minute chunk along a single street, cops silently screamed that this mysterious ride was crucial, catching someone's eye and leaving a lingering sense of dread they could barely articulate, because the ride simply felt out of place, prompting federal agents to dump massive resources into hunting it down a full 6 weeks after the fact. While chatting on the hit show Crime Stories alongside Nancy Grace, veteran sleuth Dave Mack detailed the FBI dragnet. They demanded every single security lens facing Via Entrada between 10 and 11:30 in the morning. He mentioned how the term shady is incredibly vague, yet this particular ride clearly caught someone's attention despite the sun shining brightly overhead. That detail speaks incredible volumes. The guy is absolutely correct. Calling something sketchy involves a deeply personal gut feeling rather than cold, hard facts. It implies a local resident noticed the automobile trespassing on their mental map of normalcy. Yet they totally froze, lacking any immediate impulse to act on that creepy realization. A bystander definitely spotted the giant ape. They simply remained completely clueless about the deadly game playing out right in front of them. Carefully analyzed the terrifying sequence unfolding on January 31st. Right around 9:50 that night, security footage captured Nancy Guthrie pulling into her own garage after enjoying a lovely meal over at her daughter Annie's place. Based on reports from CBS News leaning on law enforcement insiders, the surveillance system guarding her front porch mysteriously flatlined around 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. Roughly 25 minutes later, at 2:12 a.m., another security lens triggered an alert for human movement, though the actual visual data had conveniently vanished into thin air. Her digital pacemaker connection mysteriously severed at 2:28 a.m., exactly 8 minutes later at 2:36. A completely separate security lens situated 2.5 miles out captured an automobile slinking along a secluded bypass, deliberately dodging busy cross streets to escape the subdivision. A mere 16 hours stood between that mysterious daytime ride cruising via Entrada at 10 in the morning and the terrifying moment her heart monitor flatlined at 2:28 a.m. That is just 16 hours separating a predator brazenly scouting the territory under the sun from a phantom navigating those same twisting streets under absolute blackness. You need absolutely ice-cold nerves to pull off a stunt like that. Gliding flawlessly through a pitch-black labyrinth at 2 in the morning is never a byproduct of sheer coincidence. Such deadly precision only stems from intensive practice runs, physically rolling over the blacktop beforehand, and carefully memorizing every single blind corner while the sun still offered a clear view. Former NYPD investigator Pat Brown sat down alongside his squad to thoroughly dissect that grainy video clipped at 2:36 a.m., analyzing the shadowy outline, the aggressive drop of the upper frame, and the uniquely styled back windows. Alongside vertical brake lights, confidently led his squad to identify a Kia Soul. That specific ride remains totally unnamed publicly. Cops remain painfully tight-lipped about whether the weekend scout ride perfectly matches the phantom machine spotted burning rubber at 2:36 in the morning. By locking onto that tight 90-minute gap on January 31st, the FBI is practically screaming that unmasking the daytime lurker will ultimately expose the midnight monster. Meanwhile, that mysterious chunk of time on January 11th, jumping 3 weeks back between 9 at night and midnight, remains an equally critical, totally unexplained piece of the puzzle, assuming this ghoul was actively running drills, quietly mastering the subdivision layout through repeated trips while meticulously clocking response times. If someone spent their time studying neighborhood rhythms, memorizing lens directions and blind spots, the 11th of January means everything. That marks ground zero, exactly 3 weeks prior to Nancy Guthrie vanishing. The gears of a sinister abduction plot started turning right out in the open, completely hiding in plain sight from every single oblivious bystander. Think about the sheer intel gathered during 21 days of dedicated stalking, assuming they were watching. That much time breeds absolute precision, granting perpetrators chilling confidence that completely removes any guesswork. The attackers knew exactly whose porch lamps would shine or stay dark. Alongside figuring out whoever took their pets for walks at 2 in the morning, they also mapped out who stayed fast asleep, determining exactly how neighborhood lenses captured the exact pathways leading up to one targeted suburban residence. Federal investigators focusing heavily on January 11th. Alongside that suspicious morning car from January 31st and subsequent video subpoenas, strongly points toward a dark scheme that took much longer than 7 days to orchestrate. These clues paint a chilling picture of a calculated setup spanning 4 full weeks. All the groundwork happened under broad daylight, carried out by a seemingly unremarkable sedan cruising down a perfectly normal residential avenue. Our brains naturally ignore mundane details since they just blend into the scenery, meaning a meticulous criminal will ensure their actions never draw a second glance. Consequently, that automobile parked along Via Entrada serves as far more than mere evidence, acting instead as a blueprint of their tactical approach. Their primary tactic relies upon extreme patience and normalcy. They fully grasped that blending in works infinitely better than wearing an actual physical mask. True camouflage means matching your environment so perfectly that casual observers never feel a single urge to double-check their surroundings. Which brings us to an interesting mental exercise. Imagine checking your porch lens during an early February evening only to discover a missing 2-hour block of footage simply labeled as completely inaccessible. How would you react? Most folks simply ignore it, blaming a standard Wi-Fi crash. We barely register the error before moving past it. Knowing connection drops are incredibly common, so our minds automatically attribute the missing video to the most logical technical failure. Standard temporary glitch. definitely avoiding tech support calls or warning the folks next door, allowing massive threats to slip by while we dismiss them as boring electrical hiccups. That precise scenario played out across the Catalina foothills during February 1st's dark hours. A detail News Nation journalist Brian Entin finally uncovered on March 6th, over 30 days post-kidnapping. Entin interviewed a local resident whose home security timeline contained a bizarre blackout right around the crucial time frame. Those vital recordings had completely vanished. After airing his findings, surrounding homeowners quickly chimed in with identical stories regarding missing video segments, flashing error messages, identical timeframes on that exact evening across several properties. As detectives canvassed the subdivision again throughout early March, they completely stopped asking locals for eyewitness accounts, instead shifting to a highly specific question: did your network crash that evening? Several homeowners later verified to NBC reporter Liz Kreutz that Pima County law enforcement focused entirely on that specific connectivity issue. Authorities mentioned other locals experiencing simultaneous connection dropouts, and that specific phrasing carries immense weight. Detectives felt zero shock, having already started piecing together a broader trend. That emerging puzzle revealed an entire suburban grid getting systematically blinded, leaving every individual homeowner assuming it was just a personal technological hiccup, simply because nobody thought to cross-reference the timing with the people next door. The broader anomaly stayed perfectly hidden through isolated fragmentation. Each blackout appeared standard, yet combining them reveals an absolute impossibility, highlighting a different kind of stealth that goes far beyond simply overlooking a clue while your attention wavers elsewhere. It represents a puzzle completely obscured when you only possess a single fragment, proving our brains require wide-angle context to spot the true monster lurking nearby. Hand a stranger just one screenshot of that famous psychological test, and they'll merely describe a guy standing inside a corridor. Play the entire clip, and the hidden beast suddenly emerges, which echoes Fox News journalist Michael Ruiz uncovering pictures of a sabotaged electrical terminal resting mere steps away from Nancy Guthrie's residence. Pima County authorities officially confirmed they are probing potential links between that vandalized equipment and the widespread neighborhood internet blackouts. Former federal agent Jennifer Coffindaffer openly voiced the exact theory detectives are currently scrutinizing behind closed doors. Did an attacker intentionally sabotage those wires before February 1st, completely blinding the block prior to striking? Separately, every single verified detail seems terribly boring. Smashed telecom hardware, missing porch recordings, and a random winter Wi-Fi drop feel harmless, until placing that broken terminal right beside the targeted woman's property. That evening, surrounding security lenses went simultaneously dark, perfectly aligning with the exact time frame. Detectives suspect a helpless victim was violently snatched. Combined, these acts form a premeditated blackout of digital witnesses before striking, proving this was no simple network error. This was a full-blown tactical strike, and recognizing that terrifying difference is exactly what separates an eternally unsolved mystery from a major investigative breakthrough. Right in plain sight, electrical cabinets completely vanish from our minds. We walk past these metal boxes daily without a glance. They hold zero value for anyone just trying to survive the daily grind. Plus, they look absolutely terrible. You instantly forget them since they never alter their appearance. They just blend directly into the urban scenery. It is exactly like boring wallpaper that your mind acknowledges exactly one time, categorizes as permanent, and then instantly ignores forever. In a community completely swarmed by nationwide press for 54 straight days, that exact cabinet remained totally unnoticed near the murder site until a Fox News journalist deliberately hunted for it. It was not concealed at all. Our brains just dismiss municipal equipment entirely. Public utilities fade completely into the shadows. The federal video dropped on February 10th reveals something resembling a radio antenna poking out of the killer's clothing. Defense lawyer Joshua Ritter pointed out an absolutely crucial detail here. Activating a signal blocker for just one house would not instantly knock out the entire block without heavy military-grade hardware. This tiny detail unlocks a terrifying theory where the street cabinet and the pocket gadget were actually distinct parts of a multi-step attack. The first gadget killed the local power grid outside. The second device blinded the victim's lens up close. A dual approach guaranteeing a single brutal outcome. a deserted road paired with a dead security setup. You simply cannot improvise a two-step attack like that. An attacker does not randomly pack a pocket scrambler and suddenly choose to sabotage a nearby electrical hub just for fun. Every single step gets mapped out because a lone tactic often fails. The killer knew certain security lenses use cables. They realized some hubs save video on site, meaning backup defenses need backup attacks. This massive tactical thinking entirely eliminates the theory of an amateur. This screams cold, calculated plotting. Every single surveillance lens went completely dark. The entire street dozed off. And whoever noticed a missing chunk in their doorbell logs just brushed it off as a glitch. Just harmless white noise. By February 10th, exactly 9 days following Nancy Guthrie vanishing, federal boss Kash Patel dropped recovered clips pulled straight from her Nest lens. Federal agents teamed up with Google to extract the ghosts of deleted files. The actual hardware got ripped right off the house and vanished forever. Those grainy video clips immediately set the entire nation buzzing with wild theories. People obsessively picked apart the suspect's bag, the weapon mount, the hand coverings, and the overall disguise. Yet, buried beneath that massive mountain of armchair detective work, a single crucial detail surfaced only to be completely ignored. The killer kept a tiny torch clamped firmly between his teeth instead of gripping it, rather than attaching it to a vest, opting for a totally hands-free beam aimed straight ahead while tampering with the hardware. Clamping it like that happens when dropping the tool is completely impossible, mainly because losing your light source instantly ruins the entire task you are doing. That exact clue sat completely exposed in the February 10th federal release. Even the massive Associated Press reports that hit countless news sites explicitly mentioned it. Countless journalists wrote about it briefly before instantly switching focus right back to the duffel bag, the tactical holster, or exactly how tall the mystery guy looked. The torch got spotted, quickly documented, and then completely forgotten in the exact same breath. Everyone stared right at it without grasping the real context, simply because no one had successfully labeled its true dark significance yet. Ex-murder investigator and precinct boss David Lyons out in Lexington, Kentucky, finally managed to crack the hidden code on that clue. He pointed out that average folks rarely clamp a torch in their jaws, but blue-collar workers absolutely do this daily, especially sparkies or pipe fitters. He brushed it off as a minor detail while admitting it could completely blow the cold case wide open later on down the line. The former cop actually triggered a psychological breakthrough that finally allowed a totally overlooked clue to step directly into the glaring spotlight. He essentially gave the action a proper label instead of just casually observing a random light source. He instantly linked that specific jaw grip technique to a highly specialized group of manual laborers who do it purely out of instinct. The second you establish that context, a tiny detail buried across 100 different reports suddenly becomes the only thing keeping you awake at night, because this is definitely no ordinary quirk. You do not pick up that trick in college or basic training. It gets hardwired into your brain through years of grueling repetition on extremely rough job sites. A wireman digging around inside a breaker box needs both hands totally free and severely lacks any flat spot to balance his heavy equipment. A pipe fitter twisting metal beneath tight floorboards faces the exact same miserable physical reality. Or even a heating expert and a framing guy who survived thousands of hours crammed into dark crawl spaces entirely without decent roof lamps. Muscle memory kicks in instantly, you just clamp it between your teeth. Biting the torch keeps your grip totally unencumbered so work gets done. This stance screams blue-collar workers so loudly that an ex-cop spotted it on the tape immediately. He shared his breakdown via an Associated Press report right after release, hitting every major network. That crucial clue sat entirely exposed. For 6 solid weeks, the image sat entirely ignored across thousands of blogs and video essays simply because nobody cared to look closer. Ex-investigator Clint Van Zant dug into the raw tape and concluded the intruder dropped an absolute goldmine of clues. That wasn't just some dramatic exaggeration. Analyzing the entryway video reveals a stunning amount of personal quirks. From his walking rhythm to exact decisions, you clearly see him moving a potted shrub instead of covering the camera, completely unfazed by the bright security floodlights. Every piece builds a psychological outline, yet his torch handling stands on its own, while the rest shows steady nerves. Biting that light exposes deep-rooted muscle memory forged through countless dark nights on the job. Detectives heading back into the Catalina foothills specifically grilled locals about the crews handling nearby building projects. Multiple upscale properties around here remain under constant, active renovation, prompting cops to aggressively demand the exact identities of any tradesmen stationed around those sites. During a different sweep, authorities pressed residents hard about a specific family who mysteriously packed up before Nancy vanished. Law enforcement keeps digging deeply into the bizarre timing of that relocation, tracking folks who bailed beforehand, combined with the contractor angle, ultimately points toward one glaringly obvious theory. Did some hired hand hold unlimited, unquestioned access to these private streets leading up to February 1st? A Sparky hired for a foothills gig inherently memorizes the local grid simply because tracking power lines pays the bills. Any foreman running a fresh construction site nearby would blindly memorize Via Entrada after cruising it every single sunrise for the duration of their gig. Navigating that pitch-black fork in the road becomes pure instinct without street lamps. Maintenance guys bouncing between local estates map out these blocks in a deeply intimate way that strictly locals or workers ever could. It bypasses the brain entirely, living straight within their subconscious daily rhythm. That spatial awareness becomes second nature, requiring zero active mental effort to process. Yet, the blue-collar angle offers way more than geography. An authorized worker possesses an incredibly dangerous invisible shield. They hold a totally free pass, since a utility van idling on Via Entrada for 3 straight hours raises absolutely zero red flags. It naturally blends into suburban wallpaper. Nobody bothers jotting down plates or ringing cops. Neighbors literally look right past a guy decked out in high-vis gear pacing around a fence line inspecting utilities. Wearing a tool belt triggers a psychological blind spot, cloaking the suspect in what experts formally call a categorical shield. Our minds categorize the laborer as harmless background noise and immediately tune out. What if an insider heavily exploited their clearance to scout the terrain and pinpoint every single hidden surveillance lens? They could effortlessly map power grids, sketching out every barrier standing between the curb and Nancy Guthrie's entryway. The terrifying part is stalking her entirely openly, fully exposed to oncoming traffic and nosy neighbors checking doorbell feeds. Even random delivery drivers cruising past ignored him. Yet he remained completely cloaked by his innocent blue-collar disguise right up until those dark early hours of February 1st, struggling to disable the camera while desperately needing illumination. His raw muscle memory instantly takes complete control. He firmly bites down on his torch, an absolutely crucial breadcrumb sitting publicly inside the footage since day 1. A single clue buried across 100 reports went unnoticed until day 50 on March 22, 2026. 50 days after Nancy vanished, police still hadn't paraded any named suspects or announced a single formal arrest, with the porch shadow remaining a total mystery. Her desperate relatives practically begged locals to comb through their private camera rolls and old texts. Somebody holds actual answers. Their official press release emphasized that a random bystander might clutch vital evidence without possessing the slightest clue of its value. Framing it as unrealized significance translates selective attention into an active manhunt, acting as a desperate plea rather than pointing fingers. Stop looking for a cover-up. This is simply a glitch in the way our brains process reality. People are completely unaware of their own blind spots. Later that afternoon, a creator called Dad's Gone Live was patrolling Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, sticking to his weeks-long routine of recording, observing, and keeping a watchful eye. Then something caught his eye, already faded from the harsh Arizona heat. Several handwritten yellow posters had been tacked up right outside her property line. He immediately alerted authorities. You can spot these bizarre placards appearing randomly across the Guthrie block. We have counted around 3 of them up to this point. Pima County investigators are actively walking the scene right now. Pima County deputies arrived, inspected the mysterious posters, and seized one for their case file. The text paired Guthrie with Carol Schimk. Right underneath, it listed Yavapai Sheriff's Department. Underneath was Lemons Road State Fire Connolly. Another sign read plate CBD2273. This introduces the inattentional blindness dilemma. How did these go entirely unnoticed until a random content creator finally read them? It all comes down to mental sorting. For 50 days straight, locals, neighbors, and heartbroken outsiders had been leaving yellow objects near Nancy Guthrie's residence. bringing various floral arrangements, candles, personal letters, and banners. The neighborhood permanently associated any yellow item nearby as just another mourning tribute. Anyone driving past those yellow papers subconsciously dumped them into an existing mental folder labeled as background community grief. The metaphorical gorilla strolled right across our screen until one guy broke his focus, actually analyzed the text, and discovered 4 names that completely violated the context of a victim's shrine. Consider Carol June Shymick. According to public files and local chatter surfacing after these posters were discovered, she passed away on January 1st, 2020. She lived in Chino Valley, up in Yavapai County, Arizona. The 74-year-old woman managed a small gem and jewelry boutique. Neighbors knew her as an outspoken activist fighting over water meter regulations and private well access within her countryside town. Chino Valley sits 224 miles northwest of Tucson, roughly a 3.5-hour commute. Yavapai County is situated directly north of the Pima County lines. Those official agencies scribbled next to her identity, specifically the Yavapai Sheriff's Department and Lemons Road State Fire, strictly belong to that northern territory rather than Tucson. Following Shymick's passing, intense local rumors began circulating, completely unproven and lacking any formal medical examiner's ruling. With 0 active investigations supporting the theory, rumors claimed her death wasn't natural, hinting she suffered a violent end. Conspiracy theorists linked her alleged killers to the exact same agencies now scrawled in black ink across bright yellow paper, planted right at a federal kidnapping victim's property. Let me be clear, this is purely a rumor, not a legal conclusion. Nobody is investigating a murder, and authorities never declared foul play. But we do have a mysterious placard dropped into an active federal crime scene, pairing a deceased woman's identity with a missing person, which Pima County investigators seized on day 50. Here is exactly what that specific evidence seizure reveals today. It says nothing about Carol Shymick, ignores Yavapai County entirely, and doesn't prove a single conspiracy theory. It proves that seasoned federal kidnapping agents analyzed these weird posters and immediately decided that throwing one into an evidence bag was the correct response. They didn't just snap a picture and leave. They never dismissed it as a neighbor's misguided mourning project. Instead, they handled it exactly like any crucial item that could break a major criminal case. Officers secured the paper, processed the material, and hauled it away securely. Gathering evidence is always a deliberate choice. Leaving an item untouched at any crime scene represents a definitive judgment. It means an expert decided the object held 0 investigative value. But the moment they actually bag something, they are loudly declaring the exact opposite. A seasoned detective out there on day 50 analyzed a dead woman's name. Noted agencies located 224 miles away, and instantly knew this had to hit the crime lab. That explicit decision acts as a massive clue itself. It proves these posters aren't static, they are a clear signal. And wherever plate CBD2273 leads, the choice to seize it reveals that authorities think the author actually holds extremely valuable intelligence. That specific vehicle registration, CBD2273, scrawled on the second poster, provides the best real-time lead this bizarre puzzle has offered. An actual tag bolted to a physical car guarantees authorities can track down its legitimate owner. Detectives can easily run that sequence, pinpoint exactly who cruised down Nancy Guthrie's block, and interrogate them about their knowledge regarding the events of February 1st. This individual either holds a secret link between these two victims that cops completely missed, or a disgruntled citizen lashing out at government agencies they feel fiercely betrayed by, projecting their own vendetta onto the biggest unsolved mystery Tucson has seen in decades. Or, and we cannot ignore this terrifying option, they hold actual answers about how Nancy Guthrie vanished. What this story truly teaches us is not just about crime, it's about how easily reality can slip past us when we stop truly seeing. Every day, we walk through familiar streets, glance at passing cars, notice small details, and forget them instantly. Not because we are careless, but because our minds are built to filter. Yet this same ability can become our greatest weakness. Danger does not always hide in shadows, it often stands in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. The heartbreaking truth is that crucial clues were never hidden. They were seen but not understood. A parked car, a flicker in a camera feed, a strange habit caught on video. Each piece meant nothing alone, but together, they told a story waiting to be recognized. This is a reminder to stay present, to question what feels off, even if it seems small, to trust instinct over convenience. Because awareness is not about fear, it's about attention. Sometimes, the difference between mystery and truth is not what we see, but what we choose to notice. And somewhere out there, the answer may already exist, quietly waiting for someone to finally understand its meaning.